Hi, everyone. How are all of you? I'm not like super late today, so that's good. Let me know if you can hear me. Welcome to the wind down, which starts around 7 o'clock Eastern Time. All right. Awesome. So we have an interesting mix of topics today. And I haven't forgotten about the topics I still owe you. I still owe them. But this was interesting. So I figured that we would do this. Because the topics seem like they don't make sense together, but they actually do, which I find to be quite interesting. So, hey, Tiffany. Hey, Jonathan. Let me know if you guys can hear me. And all right. Hi, Bree. Perfect. Okay, you guys can hear me? Great. So we'll go ahead and hop into it. Okay, so the agenda and why you're seeing Shannon Brown's face on the thumbnail. We're going to talk about the NBA healthcare indictment. Yes, 18 and former NBA players were arrested today for trying to allegedly scam the NBA Health Association. Yeah, it's very interesting. And what I find more interesting though is people's reactions to that versus people's reactions to the Pandora Papers, which in, water is wet news, the ultra wealthy are allegedly still scamming the rest of us. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that too. So I think that's very interesting. So we're gonna do NBA first. We're gonna go over the indictment. I have it and it's linked below. So if you guys want to read the indictment, then we're gonna go over the Pandora Papers. If you haven't heard and gotten the news about what that is, why it's important. It's very similar to when we talked about the secret IRS files from ProPublica. It's the same thing. They're cousins, just a larger issue. A global issue, if you may. And then we're going to talk about tax havens, what those are, who are the gatekeepers, who are the people enabling this behavior, and then a little sip and discuss. All right, sounds good. Let's get into it. Okay, so these, can y'all see? Maybe I'll make them a little bigger. So it's everywhere now. These 18 young, middle-aged right now, to be honest, former NBA players have now been indicted with federal crimes, conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and wire fraud. So yes, what exactly were they doing? Now, mind you, to the tune of $4 million. $4 million for a regular person is a lot of money. $4 million between 18 alleged scammers is not that much money, which I find the entire thing very interesting. Like the entire kerfuffle, why is this a big deal? You shouldn't scam. Scamming is wrong. Yes. But we are talking about literally 100 and something grand per person involved, which is interesting. Like, why are they scamming for such small amounts? Why are they doing in the first place? Aren't these alleged rich people? So we're going to get into that. We're really going to get into that. Thank you, Natasha. Y'all, I've had a day, but we'll get into that later. Y'all not here to hear about my day. I'm glad that I look presentable. Okay, so what exactly did they do? And I had a video of the clip from, this is getting prosecuted in SDNY, the Southern District of New York. Even though they live in various other jurisdictions, SDNY brought the case against them. So I had a clip of the SDNY just got a new AG. So not of the AG, but of their press release, basically saying hey, what they did. And it was hilarious coming from their mouth. And I forgot to include the clip. So you're also gonna have to listen to me. So basically what had happened was in 2017, Terrence Williams, now these are all former NBA players. So unless you are super, huge basketball fan, the only face you're likely going to recognize, only name is Shannon Brown, who is Monica, the singer, ex-husband. They are divorced. Other than that, most people are not going to remember. I remember, I'm a huge Heat fan, so I remember certain names, the ones that played for the Heat. I'm like, oh, look at you, allegedly doing nonsense. So what they did was, according to the indictment and their fraudulent scheme, allegedly, in November 2017, Terrence Williams decided that he was going to go to the chiropractor's office. So according to the healthcare plan that the NBA offers to former players and current players, they are allowed to get reimbursements for certain things. Can y'all see? This is probably too small. I'll make it a little bigger. They're allowed to receive reimbursements. I found a few things surprising in this. Not the reimbursements part. When you go out of network, you then have to submit to your insurance plan, hey, I went out of network. And they're usually that's cute. I'll pay for 25% of this because they nickel and dime everything. Same thing, except the NBA insurance plan generally pays everything out. So He allegedly went to the chiropractor for $19,000 for one visit, which I'm like, what type of magical chiropractor is this? Very, very interesting. The amounts that you're about to see make no sense. I don't know what type of magical doctor they were doing this with. Also, for this to work, the doctors also, some of them are probably in on it, and they should also be charged if that's the route we're going to go. So $19,000. And I won't read the whole paragraph, but I'll scroll down like to the last part. So invoices created by Williams' direction, the administrative manager approved Williams' $19,000 claim in part, and the plan paid $7,672 to Williams in connection with his false fraudulent claim. So the plan was like, okay, cool, you got these services. Some of this goes to the doctor, and then some of this goes to you because you paid out of pocket. So here goes $7,000. Again, scamming is wrong. This is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is these are very random amounts. If we're looking at in the context of things, I'm like, where is it going? These are very random amounts, $7,000. So according to the indictment, after he received his little $7,000 check, he decided to allegedly tell his friends, hey, you two former old heads, you can get some money. We are going to go to the doctor and allegedly not actually go to the doctor, and we're going to get some cash back. It's giving like side hustle scam, if you may. And it continues to get worse. So let's go to the next part. Now, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but basically, Smith, what he decided to do is, people that scam usually get caught because they don't follow through on their scam. So he alleged that he went to the dentist's office. He's like, yep, I went to the doctor on the 27th, but he also was actually in Taiwan on that day. So it's not possible for him to be in the California doctor and also be in Taiwan, child. That's not really gonna work. But people telling themselves. So that's what happened. So they used that information against him. So what I found most interesting, and which is why I wanted to show you guys the clip, and I didn't mean to call out what's his first name? He used to play for the Heat. His last name is Moon. He played for the Heat for like a couple months in 2009. I remember. He basically went to the dentist, and I only pulled him up because he went on my birthday on March 23rd and had to get endodontic therapy on 5 teeth on the 23rd, 3 teeth on March 7th, 2019, and then 2 teeth on March 15th, 2015. Now, none of these people are wearing dentures that I know of. Their teeth are not that bad for them to be allegedly going to the dentist every 5 seconds for thousands of dollars. Some of these bills are like $27,000 for the dentist. It's kind of wild. Listen, I had to give y'all a little throwback, Mrs. Doubtfire. Like, what's wrong with y'all's teeth? Like, why didn't anyone think like, oh, we should probably stop this? This is really a bad idea. Now, what I find very interesting is that that they continue to do this, which made no sense, for these essentially not a lot of money. So they're just scamming to get themselves into federal crimes for foolishness, first of all. Second of all, it's the idea when you go on Twitter of a lot of people being like, oh, wait, aren't they rich? Like, don't they have money? Like, and I hate to break it to you. I don't want to sound ridiculous, but a lot of our faves are broke. A lot of our faves are living a rently lifestyle. It is not bought. And the basketball players, the footballers, it's the same thing. And if not to like a bigger scale, because they don't teach these people proper money management. This is an aside. This is not an excuse as to why people are doing side hustle scamming. No, you shouldn't be doing that nonsense. But if you were going to do this, shouldn't you think about this a little bit? Why were there 18 people involved in pretending to go to the doctor, allegedly? That's so many people. What is it in Pretty Little Liars? 2 of us can keep a secret if one of us is dead. It never was going to work. Yet they continued to allegedly do this and now got arrested. The person who SDNY is saying is a perpetrator and the ringleader of the entire thing is facing not only the original charge that all of them are facing of fraud, but a charge of aggravated identity theft. To do this, he allegedly took one of the individuals that worked at the dentist's office, their personal information, to write pretend prescriptions, to say like, oh yeah, so-and-so was in the doctor's office. Eventually, the health association caught on because they were like, hey, there's a lot of grammatical errors. This is not on letterhead. You're giving fake prescriptions that are not even on the proper postage. And yeah, so that aggravated charge is a heightened charge. And if he's convicted, is a mandatory minimum of 2 years in federal prison. 2 years in federal prison for chump change, for foolishness. It really, like, none of it makes any sense. All of it is just so silly. So we're gonna go with this. Nezuko, they must have a group chat where they discuss this and the amounts to charge. Listen, I just want to know who out of all 18 of them was like, you know what, this is a good idea. This is a good idea to get federal crimes for pennies. Now, I took a screenshot and forgot to put it up here because I always like to see like what Twitter's saying, even though I don't have the Twitter. Questlove made a good point, and he was like, so it is likely that maybe one or two or a few of them might actually serve prison time in federal prison, but yet the people running up on the Capitol building, child, is asking for vegan food and being fine. It's really not adding up. It's really, which is why I thought it'd be a good idea, to talk about this in conjuncture with the billionaires that are full on scamming, and people are just like at a loss, like, oh, can't prosecute them, don't know what to do, we don't have the evidence, so much commotion. But yet y'all found all the evidence, all the 18 of them. Like, clearly, you should treat all the scammers the same. If they're going to allegedly scam, then they should all allegedly get prosecuted together at the same time. So, okay, so I'm going to go through some of the comments really quick. Oh, thank you, Tea Leaf. Yeah, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video. Yes, so NBA players do get millions of dollars. I think there's a huge misconception, though, in terms of how much money, specifically sports, because I used to work in sports, how much money sports players are getting versus how much money they themselves keep. Most sports players, unfortunately, because systemic racism and leads to racial inequality, leads to the huge racial wealth gap that there is in the United States, most of these players are coming from working class or quote unquote lower class backgrounds. When they make it, their whole family makes it too. The whole block is making it. So next thing you know, you have an 18, 19, 20-year-old who has millions of dollars. And it's like, oh, I have no idea how to manage millions of dollars. I'm 30 years old. If you gave me $1 million, I have a modicum of sense now. At 18, child, I would have bought all the Ankara, every single piece of Ankara, and ate all the sushi, and it would have been done. So they spend the money. They do foolishness with the money. By the time they're retired, so these men are in their big age. Like, we're talking late 30s, early 40s. The money gone. The money is usually gone. Shaq, Dwayne Wade, I'm listing people that played for the Heat. Those are outliers. Those are not the majority of NBA players, which I should have pulled up the statistics. I can't remember. More than 50%. I know it's more than 50% of them in the first 5 years after retiring are broke. And I don't mean like, oh, now we have white picket fence broke. Like, okay, I got to go to suburbia broke. Like, no, dead broke. Like, money is gone. Haven't seen the money, never heard of the money. They don't know what to do. Listen. So I do have a touch of empathy as to the why. However, this didn't make any sense to begin with. This never made any sense. It was foolish. Because there is something to say for the NBA Association that they make billions of dollars off of people, yet their players are trying to allegedly scam for fake teeth. Child, what? Like, it needs to get right-sized somewhere in there. All right. Scammers scam because of opportunities. Some of the time, it's really sad. This is true. It's like people that have, is it klepto? What's that? I forget like the actual term for people that just like to steal small things. Winona Ryder. Back in the day when Winona Ryder, before she fell and like has risen back up. So people that watch Stranger Things are like, oh, if you're younger, like, oh, Winona Ryder is great. Winona Ryder has been around the block many a time. So when she first came into being an A-list celebrity, Winona had a klepto problem. She would walk into stores and steal small, tiny things just because like it gave her rush. Some people do the wrong thing. Some people just do the wrong thing. It's not about the money. It's not about the money to them. This, though, I would be curious to know how many of the people on the 18 of them on that list actually are broke. I would be curious. And not in a like, oh, point a finger broke, but like just to show the point. I'm sure a lot of them are. A lot of the people on that list played in the league 3, 4, 5 years max. But there are a few. Shannon Brown has a ring, I think, from the Lakers. One of the big three, one of them played with the big three at the Celtics. Like, he should still have some money. And it's saying should without realizing that the system they're playing in, although yes, it's more money than we will ever see, is not exactly designed to keep them living good. Is really not. All right. So let me go through. Yep. So to Chris's point, some NFL player got caught a couple of years ago for the same thing. Yep, that's what I was reading too. So this is something I guess a few of them have realized, like, oh, we just submit a reimbursement and money shows up in my bank account. It's like, that's not how that works. You can't be doing this. All right. Hi, Opulent. How are you? Kleptomaniac. There we go. Okay. I was like, it's klepto something. Like, what's the word? It's basically similar. Some people. Some of these people though that are scamming is because they are broke, and the idea from the rest of us is, oh, how can you be broke? I saw your $10 million contract. Don't you have to manage your money? So now they're keeping up with this perception, and they have their little rently, and then they have their house that's rented in the hills, and they have all these things. And child, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. Financial literacy should really be taught in schools. I don't think that that's going to really help them now, particularly with the aggravated identity theft. You can't just be stealing like workers' information. Foolishness. Foolishness. And this is true. I've seen this from like a personal standpoint. Athletes are taking care of too many friends and family. Yes. And some people have very well-meaning family. So it's like, okay, well, we know like this is the amount, like we're all gonna, have community economics. And some people's family, call a spade is not shit. Just ain't shit, ain't not gonna be shit. And then just take the money. And they think it's like a parade, like, oh yeah, we hit the jackpot. And that's not how this money works. If you have to invest the money, you have to save the money. Once you spend through the money, there are so many sad stories from NFL and the NBA because they don't teach them money management. You can't give an 18, 19, 20-year-old that amount of money. Hell, you can't give a grown 30-year-old, a 60-year-old millions of dollars. The people that win the lottery, that's why they call it the curse of the lottery. The majority of them also end up broke. If you don't have good financial money management, no one's taught it to you, no matter how much money somebody gives you, you will likely run through it. So yeah. Not to defend them, but there's a multiple sides of it, which I think is interesting. So into some criminals that we all can agree on, which is some of your faves, some of our faves. Interesting. So, I don't know. I don't know when Monica and him got divorced, to be honest. So I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not exactly sure, but I want to talk about the Pandora Papers. So I think 2 months ago, maybe, we did a video on the IRS secret tax files that came out, which basically in the United States, multiple of the elites, including people who are in the DA's office, including Bezos. Bezos was claiming child tax credit, all types of foolishness. All of their tax information was leaked to ProPublica, and ProPublica published it and was like, y'all are legally scamming. Like, just because it's a loophole doesn't make it morally wrong. Well, think of the Pandora report as the same thing as IRS tax files, but on a global scale, on a huge scale, including some of our faves. Elton John, Shakira, I mean, probably nobody's fave, but Putin, and one Tony Blair. Tony Blair is the former prime minister of the UK. Yes, King Abdullah II of Jordan, also on this list. Multiple people on this list. One thing to point out, if you read through everything, there's like a lot of information. I linked basically the International Criminal Justice. I'm not saying it correct. The ICJ. If you go on their website, which is linked below, you can peruse around to the different files. It's over 11 million documents. So you can have a field day. You can have a field day and see everybody's foolishness. But what I found interesting, and what I think when I was watching Trevor Noah do like his little segment about it, what he stated was you'll see an absence mostly of American billionaires on that list. And the reason being why you're not really going to see a lot of American billionaires on that list is because the American tax system allows them to do foolishness anyway. They don't really have that need to, go to these lengths that their foreign friends are allegedly going to. So that's what we're going to do. So listen, to Kiki's point, the entire idea of richness is a scam. It's very interesting. Okay, so what exactly do they do? So I don't know if like I extra cannot see today, but I'm just going to make everything big because everything looks super small to me. So offshoring, the definition is the practice of basing some of a company's processes or services overseas so as to take advantage of lower cuts. So you usually hear when people are like, oh, they're offshoring all the factory jobs in the US to countries where they don't have to pay as much because America cares about profits over people. Offshoring in this context is going to go hand in hand with the tax haven. So, a tax haven is basically a country or independent area where taxes are levied at a low rate. So, in the United States, because we, the regular degular people, pay per percentage more than the billionaires in taxes, they don't really have a need for much tax havens. To be honest, America is a tax haven. Specifically, what I found the most interesting in America, there is a little known tax haven where Mount Rushmore is. Mount Rushmore, for those of you that don't know, honestly, I didn't know. When I saw it, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Hey, Kelly. Mount Rushmore is in South Dakota. There's no offense, but full transparency and truthfulness. There's nothing else really in South Dakota, except apparently a tax haven. So South Dakota used to be one of the poorer states in the United States. All states are not created equal. There are some states that are extremely poor. Mississippi is the poorest state in the United States. South Dakota used to be in the bottom 10. Not now. South Dakota decided that they were going to become a tax haven. They were going to loosen their restrictions and laws to the tune of there are now $70 billion under asset management in South Dakota. Child, there is no Fortune 100 company. I had to think about that. Highly doubt, just in case somebody's like, no, there's one. Highly doubt there are any Fortune 100 companies in South Dakota. Yet, a lot of the billionaires have realized sending my money to St. Thomas, to the Bahamas, oh, it was cute, but South Dakota, I can send it to South Dakota. And that's what they're doing. They have decided to stash their cash in South Dakota. And why does it matter? It matters to Kelly's point because they are a whole thieving class of people. What I've realized, the more like I do research on these things, the more like this comes out and then we talk about it, there is a kind of apathy that will creep in like, oh, here they go, stealing money, doing nonsense again. What are we supposed to do about this? And why does this matter to me? I'm still going to be, living my fake middle class life with all my student loans. How does this affect us? It affects the rest of us because we're paying for the potholes in the street. We're paying for the potholes. We're paying for the schools. We're paying for these things. And we are basically subsidizing their life. We pay more in taxes in a percentage. I pay over 33% in taxes living in NYC. We have city, state, and federal tax. I pay more percentage than Bezos. We did the numbers, and I will link the ProPublica report when we did that one about their tax report. I'll link that as well if you guys want to watch that because the actual numbers are in there. I didn't bother to look up the numbers, child, today. The numbers hurt. But basically, we pay more in taxes than Bezos and them because tax in America is based on income. Most of the billionaires don't actually work, despite what they want you to think. If you two work hard, you too can be a billionaire. No, it's not happening. You only become a billionaire by treading on the rights of others. That's it. That's the only way it's happening. You have screwed somebody and you're continuing to screw mass amounts of people. That's it. That's the only way it's happening, except with the one exception of a few artists can get there. A few. If you're getting there based off of selling clothes, that's not that. How much you pay those factory workers? That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say there. So to New Nubian's point, that's crackhead behavior. The government is on crack. They're getting kickbacks and they're on drugs. Like, it's foolishness. Which brings me to the next point that I wanted to talk about on this. Okay. So this is from ABC and not US ABC, Australian ABC. They had such a nice graphic that I just borrowed it. And they're credited in the corner. So not Tiefin. Basically, This entire shadow economy, shadow financial system is held up by a lot of gatekeepers. Gatekeepers being who? Accountants, lawyers, those are the main ones. Because the way for this to work is these billionaires set up shell companies. A shell company is a company with no assets. All it does is hold other companies in it, and those companies hold assets. People do this basically to avoid tax liability, to avoid lawsuits, to avoid things that they don't want to deal with. In corporate law, in that class, which I actually surprisingly enjoyed that class, was very interesting because then you start to realize, like, wait a minute, there are legal ways because lawyers have made an entire legal system. There are legal ways to get around everything if you have enough money and you have enough sense. So there's this concept called piercing the corporate veil, which means you have a shell company, and if somebody wants to sue you, they would have to pierce the corporate veil to even get to the money that they are entitled to, that they are owed. Like if, for example, let's make a fake example. If for some odd reason I became a very wealthy billionaire and I was like, you know what? I got here by selling Ankara, pennies on the dollar is what I pay to my workers, and I'm going to sell it for 50 bucks each, and woo, I'm making a coin. I'm making a coin off the backs of these people. I'm doing well. So one of the factory workers, say the factory collapses. A bunch of people unfortunately get hurt. We won't get super morbid. This happens all the time, by the way. Factories literally collapse in the quote unquote developing world every year, and nobody cares. People continue to buy fast fashion. Meanwhile, the factory is literally collapsing with people in it. But anyways, factory collapses. So the factory workers say, who owns this business? Who allowed me to work in this raggedy factory? It was Stephanie. They go to sue me. And I'm like, oh, can't sue me, boo. I have a shell company. Cannot pierce the corporate veil with your little foolishness. You cannot afford an attorney to figure out how the hell I set all this up. I will be here sipping my Mai Tai in St. Bart's. Leave me be. And that's what these people do. And this is Graham Briggs, which aside, because it really is irrelevant, but I thought it was interesting, the spelling of his name, even though it's spelled Graham, it's a very nice name. Graham Briggs is an Australian accountant. Allegedly, according to many sources, Graham Briggs is basically taking a large part of the fall for the Pandora reports. It has been estimated that he has made $62 million off of being an accountant to alleged oligarchs, celebrities, other rich people to help them set up their corporate structures to essentially avoid taxes, to avoid paying money. So what they're doing is they're saying like, hey, I live in, let's use Tony Blair as an example. Tony Blair, according to the 11 million pages of documentation, what he did, him and his wife bought a house. The house cost X amount of money. They're like, oh, property tax? That's for other people. I was the prime minister. Pay me? Negative, not doing it. And they hire people to set things up. So that way they're like, okay, I technically bought the house, but Tony Blair, imagine if I was Tony Blair. Tony Blair, did not buy this house. My company that is actually based in South Dakota bought the house. I just happen to live here. I'm like a renter. I'm like you, the regular people. I didn't buy anything. And that's how they go around not paying any taxes or paying very little taxes. Go around buying properties. King Abdullah II of Jordan, of Jordan allegedly bought multiple compounds in Malibu. Sir, what are you doing in Malibu? Your country is in economic crisis, apparently, and you are allegedly buying multiple compounds in Malibu. Sir, you have a job to do. If you want to believe in kingdom and believe in monarchies, isn't it your divine duty to do this? To do your job? Child, none of them are doing their job, which is why monarchies are foolish and is unnecessary. And they should abolish them, but that's not my business. Oh, so to New Nubian's point, this is about the factories falling. This happens in India all the time. It happened recently. It happens all the time, and Western news, specifically American and European news, does not report it, and I think it's disgusting. And I'm not here to shame people like, oh, don't buy fast fashion, don't do this, because I get it. You're broke and you want to afford something nice. I'm broke. I want to be like, oh, I want to look nice. I want something. So you buy it. You're like, oh, what's $5? There is no way a whole outfit, a whole top on Shein, I think it's Shein, I don't know how you pronounce it, can cost $5 and be ethical. There's no way. There's no way. For it to cost $5, if we were to look into it, it is likely It is likely, and I'm not saying it is, likely some level of child labor, slave labor. There's no way. That doesn't make any sense. That would be pennies on the dollar for people to then pretend like they're middle class. That's the only reason why you have fast fashion. So everybody else who's also stuck on their own treadmill can pretend like, oh, look, I'm doing good. I done bought this new top. I went into Forever 21 3 times this week. Like, poor me? Never. I'm rich too. No, we're not. It's not. It's foolishness. It's utter nonsense. Yes. There is so just to go on this tangent for a second, there's a documentary. Oh, it was so good. It came out a couple years ago about fast fashion. And yes, it's depressing. There's nothing happy about the actual reality of a lot of people live working in these places. Yes, it's depressing. I highly recommend it. I can't remember the name right now. Actually, let me Google it really quick and then I'll tell y'all. Fast fashion. It's very well done. Documentary. The True Cost. It's on YouTube. I think I watched it on YouTube. Yep, it's the full thing is on YouTube, so you can watch it on YouTube. So you don't have to pay anything. You don't have an excuse not to watch it. I just recommend you watch it. Even if you realize like, hey, my budget is a certain way, I can't take out all of it. That's reasonable. I would never like browbeat someone into being like, you have to buy things you can't afford. No, that's fine. But to even cut back a little bit, I think it's very much worth it because people are literally dying in those factories. So that's all. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay. So to Camilla's point, the worst part is when we do stop shopping there en masse, it's going to negatively affect the workers first. So unfair. It creates a system which leads to the argument that I've had with, I would say, non-Caribbean people. Caribbean people generally, I would say, agree about the resort system in the Caribbean. The neo-colonial resort system in the Caribbean is highly problematic and actually doesn't help anybody besides the few families that own the damn resorts, aka the owner of Sandals who loves to be on Fox News. They don't actually pay the workers that much money, but they will guilt people into thinking, oh, if we get rid of the resort, the whole island will starve. No, that's not actually true. But I think it's a slow way as a collective that we all have to figure it out. So, all right. Okay, so let me go. Oh, Butch Stewart. I always forget their names of the people that listen. It's wild. It's wild. The resort thing personally bothers me as a Jamaican. But also as a Black person, I think it should bother everyone, but it should definitely bother all Black people. The resort system is based on an idea of neo-colonial servitude. If you look at the Sandals commercials, people in Jamaica come in all shades of brown. There's only like less than 1% of Jamaica is white Jamaicans. Yes, there are white Jamaicans. There's a decent population of Chinese Jamaicans and a decent population of Indian Jamaicans from India. Okay. And then the majority of Jamaicans are Black Jamaicans. Why in the Sandals commercial is only ever dark-skinned Jamaicans serving white people? If in Jamaica we come in this color, we come in Chinese, we come in Indian, we come in brown skin, dark skin, all the colors, it's only ever dark skinned Jamaicans serving white people, specifically white people. Because purposeful, they want to sell people a dream of, oh, come to Jamaica, feel nice. Look at what happened if colonialism didn't end, which is some bullshit. And then there are people who go to these Caribbean resorts, never leave the resort because they're allegedly terrified of the people on the island. Don't come. If you don't want to go outside the resort, don't come. Keep your money. If you're so afraid, then keep your money because it's foolishness. It perpetrates the idea of subservient, anti-Black nonsense. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay. So to Natasha's point, it's like Vegas and the casinos. They tell us the casinos leave, our economy will crash. And it's a fear tactic. It's a fear tactic that I understand like why the majority of like we, the working class, we, the 99% believe it. It's like, oh, well, the person who owns a corporation, they must have got here because remember, hard work makes you a rich person. It's not true. That's a lie they feed people. So then we sit there and we believe it. And we're like, oh yeah, the rich person who knows more than me told me that is so. No, they're lying. They're lying. The past year in the pandemic, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, whose app just crashed the other day, And the whistleblower, we're going to talk about the whistleblower another time. All of them, all of their networks have risen to extreme amounts while the rest of us have gotten poor. It's not because they're smarter than us, it's because they are scamming. And just because you're legally finding loopholes doesn't mean that you're scamming. Scamming is subverting a system. Okay. Is giving very slavery. Yes, I agree, New Nubian. That's what it's giving. It's very much giving. And they call it paradise for whom? Exactly. Which is why I love that St. Thomas Parish, where I live, my family lives, Forgotten Parish doesn't have any like big resorts on it. Because they have literally forgotten that part of the island. I'm like, good, left it, leave it alone. Don't come over here. To Windfire's point. Yes, this is true. Except like the ones I live like in Danvers, Penn, like my grandma and them family. They too are regular, but yes, exactly. Oh, here we go, opening up. So Usman said, so would Ivy Park and other celebrity brands be considered part of the problem in their poor labor treatment? I like Beyonce. Yes, the answer is yes. I adore B, but the answer is yes. I haven't watched the full video, but I love her work anyway, so I know that it's good. I'm slowly making my way through it. Fab Socialism has a video about I'm drawing a blank about Rihanna and Fenty and Savage Fenty and the treatment of workers at that company. Listen, the only people that are making it to billionaire status with clean conscience and not doing anything to people, maybe, and it's a high maybe, are musicians that have made money off their music. That's literally one of the few ways. And most of these musicians, as much as we want to adore them, and that's fine. It's fine to look at someone and be like, you're so talented, lovely, stunning, love all of it. That's okay, cool. It's also okay to tell them like, hey, I noticed that the factory fell down. I noticed the factory fell down. I noticed the factory worker is hungry. I noticed. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying that too. So highly recommend her video. I'm slowly working my way through it. It's great channel. Yes, excellent channel. So Fab, so I put it on here too. Yes, so I would consider book writers. Oh, I said musicians. Yes, so artists. Yeah, so I would consider book writers to be artists too. But yeah, under that, like, listen, capitalism is a zero-sum game that has conned people into thinking it's not. There are very few winners in capitalism. If capitalism worked like they want to tell you in school, it's for everybody, we all can make it, then we all would have made it. We all would have made it, and we all have not. And that's just that. Okay. So to Vaughn's point, you can't get to billionaire status without having blood on your hands. Exactly. You can get there. You just are going to ignore it. Listen, Tom Girardi, lawyers too. Yep, lawyers. So back to just this part really quick, and then we'll come circle around. It is very disheartening is not even the word. It is very just embarrassing. A lot of lawyers and accountants are involved in this scheme, have to be involved in this scheme. You spend an honest truth about like being a lawyer. I have lots of gripes with it. I say this all the time, etc. Obviously, as you know, a Black woman likes to wear Ankara. I maybe should have realized, oh, this is not for me. It's fine. We're here now. So a lot of lawyers are sold this dream when they go to law school. I too was sold this dream. Take out all this debt. It's fine. You're gonna graduate, make $180K when you graduate. Child, have yet to see that $180K. Never seen her, never heard of her. I've gotten close every once in a while. No, never seen it. It's not happening. Okay, the lie is done. There is a second social lie to being a lawyer that a lot of people are very will begrudgingly admit, which is the social status that comes with being a lawyer. When you are a lawyer, people assume to certain levels, depending on your race and gender, because the world is racist and the world is sexist, people assume a modicum of sense. They assume competence, and they assume that you kind of know something, even if they want to fight with you, because y'all know the osmosis attorneys on the internet love to argue with me sometimes, fine. But you assume like, oh, you went to school for 7 years, 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of law school. There must be some brain cells that work in there. Okay. They assume when you become a lawyer, oh, you're going to be doing well. You too will be, maybe not a Bentley, but a good Chrysler, a Mercedes Benz. Definitely for you, lawyer. Definitely. You can do it. Living in New York, I have realized, and this is going to sound crazy if you're not an attorney, attorneys don't actually get paid what society thinks they get paid, which is why the Tom Girardi case, which we've covered, Tom Girardi is the husband of Erica Jane, who's on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, living a lavish billionaire-esque lifestyle. The minute I saw that case, I was like, how? I don't know any lawyers that have this much money. How do you get all this much money? Scamming. That's how he got so much. Stealing from his clients. That's how he got all that money. He is currently under investigation. They are currently separating his assets and her assets to give to the clients because he has scammed them out of money. This is a fact. Lawyers don't actually make the presumed amount that people think that they should make, which then, in my opinion, leads certain people to do these foolish things like this accountant, Graham Briggs. Because if you assume, hey, I'm going to go to law school, I'm smart, I have the aptitude, I'm going to do it, I'm going to work hard, I too am going to be Big B, I'm going to be Big Bezos. No, you're not. You're not. Which leads these lawyers who have now spent all these years in school, all these years of people propping them up in life, like, you're smart, you deserve that YSL bag, you deserve that Bentley, you deserve to be living good, you deserve to be with the musicians and the politicians and the so-and-so. When you don't get it, you then go on, some people, enough people that this has been going on for so many years, to realize like, all right, I'm going to use my brain for nonsense. And that's what they did. So many lawyers are in the Pandora documents. And yes, most of them did not get to the level of $62 million, but they got enough kickbacks, enough to realize like, hey, well, technically, they're not doing anything illegal. Technically, all I'm doing is setting up these corporations that my client wanted. No, I can't tell you that information. It's confidential because I'm a good lawyer. I can't let you know what I know, but don't worry. It's all above board. Child, it's not above board. It's not above board. And this incessant need for certain people to be quote unquote rich and wealthy and do the most leads to nonsense. Leads to this man, Graham Briggs, allegedly has a $4 million pen collection. Sir, what do these pens write? Checks? Expensive checks? I'm very confused. $4 million worth of pens, $400,000 worth of fine wine. Now that's the only expense I really understood. I was like, oh, if I could, I still wouldn't, because that's like way too much money. But so much wine, he never has to buy wine again. Expensive vintages. Foolishness, utter nonsense. So I think when people are looking at like, oh, eat the rich, like tax the rich, all these things. Yes, but who propped them up to get there? The gatekeepers, the underbelly, the people who in some cases were working class or were at least working. And then we're like, all right, well, I'm not really the bad guy. I'm just, doing what I learned in school. All right, so to Joe, thank you, Joanna. I do taxes, and I always thought the federal jump from 12% to 22% was really unfair. I don't think single people who make $53K should pay the heavy taxes. Completely agree. A lot of people, and I think we've talked about this before, because there was like a Twitter thread, I think I was telling you all that Chelsea had sent me, and the Twitter thread was about that most people, and I'm not, minus like the ultra wealthy, minus the 1%ers, most people think $100,000 a lot of money. You think like, oh, if you make $100,000, you're good. Like, what's the problem? Sorry, there's a plane flying. What's the problem? That's so much money. Everything is doing well. When you take out the taxes, particularly if you make $100,000 and you live in the coastal city, that's 33% of tax in New York City. So y'all know my math is not good. That's after taxes, what, $67,000 plus high cost of living. So another 30, 40 grand. Okay, cool. Leftover money. How the hell did you earn the 100K? Probably because you have like a graduate degree. Okay, cool. Student loan time. Add the people that have kids, the money is gone. Because we pay more, the regular people, than the billionaires. They do not pay their fair share in taxes. They just don't. Anybody trying to argue like, oh, they pay millions of dollars in percentage to how much they actually have, it's nothing. For example, which good. Everybody should try and be helpful and do good things. But whenever they give out these raggedy amounts of money, like $20,000, look, I donated it. That's like $2 to them. Like you would never clap for somebody giving an unhoused person $2. Why should we clap for the billionaire giving out 20,000? Why? To boost their little ego? For what? They don't need anybody to clap for them. They're fine. If they feel lonely, that's like, well, I'm going to say it because she's also like a problematic person. Like when Ellen DeGeneres was complaining during the pandemic that, I'm in my compound. And there are people literally saying like, well, everything is relative. People shouldn't be so harsh towards her. And I'm like, or she should just not be tone deaf. It's a grown woman. She doesn't realize that her compound is the size of many city blocks. Why should people have compassion? And I think that's what people are like starting to realize. You don't have to have compassion for these ultra wealthy people who are literally and purposefully doing foolishness. You don't have to have compassion for them. I don't see the reason to. I used to. And the more we do this research, the less I see the reason to. Because I think people like that have lost a certain level of their humanity by how they treat others. How is it that factories in India, that we were talking about, India, Indonesia, and I don't think it's happened in China in a while, because now China has such a big economy, they're pushing out, they're outsourcing their stuff as well. Factories literally crumble with workers, children in them. People don't bat an eye. But we're supposed to feel bad and have empathy when people that live in compounds are like, I just feel so trapped in here. I'm sure the person under the factory feels trapped. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. I don't have any empathy anymore with them. And that's just the end of it. To Sarah's point, and they can deduct a portion of that to the $20,000. Exactly. It's not like they're just on the street corner just being like, you get 20K, you get 20K, you get 20K. No. It's very much, okay, I went to Goodwill, I give 20K, give me that little yellow ticket that they give you at Goodwill, I'm gonna write this off. It's never, let me just give it away. That would be maybe a little bit different, but that's not what they're doing. I do like Mackenzie, I will say, because she does come out, Bezos's ex-wife. She has made some good points about, we can't just give the money away. So I think you can let me know if I'm wrong. I believe it was $100 million. Let me take this off the screen real quick. Hold on. Nope, I don't want it. Okay. I believe it was $100 million she gave to HBCUs, and she just gave it. Was like, okay, cool. Let me write the check. To which all of philanthropy land and then all of like the bougie newspapers in New York were like, this is unprecedented. People don't just give money away like this. And I was like, but they should. They should just give the money. Like, what is the reason why you have to set up the trust, do all these things? There's really no reason. Because the people that feel, the gatekeepers, the lawyers, the accountants are like, wait, I need my cut too. Let me set this up for you. It's not really necessary. And I think this is for Kinks Galore. That's a funny name. I don't believe billionaires giving away money when they die. Why not give away the money while they're alive? Which I think this is in reference to Warren Buffett, which Warren Buffett is notorious for, I'm giving away half my money. Warren, boo. You are almost 90. You can start now. And he's like, wait. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get there. Honey, you are in your high age, your big age. Just what can you possibly do with that money? Nothing. Okay, so to Camilla's point, rich people live in a different world than us. LOL. They don't think the same. They really believe they have a right to exploit and endanger people. There is a great documentary about this, which I don't think a lot of people would correlate it to that, but I was reading a few articles and I was like, that's exactly what's happening, about Bill Gates. I think it's on Netflix, called The Mind of Bill Gates, something like that. And if you watch the documentary, it's basically post-Microsoft Bill being like, I'm bored. Let me just start fixing issues. So he goes and he finds like these things that he thinks are problems, and he's going to fix it. He's going to rid the world of Ebola. He's going to help sub-Saharan Africa with their water drought. He is going to fix all of it because he can, and because he's bored, and because he needs an ego boost. So you think it's all good. It's all willy-nilly. And, he's being helpful. What you see by the end of the documentary, it's multiple parts, is that he follows through and then kind of trails off before the problem actually gets fixed. He's like, okay, I introduced it. Like, I'm not really going to fix it. To the point where this article came out that in the state of Washington, he does not agree with their school system. Him, Bill Gates, whose children are grown in age, who does not have any children in the current school system, does not agree with their school system. He tried to lobby, what rich people do. They use their money to influence politicians to be like, I don't like this. We need a new model. I don't remember if it was like a charter school model or whatever. He wanted a different model for the school system. Thought it was dumb. Okay, they didn't listen to him. I said, all right, that's fine. Don't listen to me. Dumped all his money to create his own pseudo system so that way it would work the way he wants it. There are plenty of rich people who have the hubris to think, because I work with some of them, who have the hubris to think, you know what? The poors, they don't have sense. They don't have the good sense. They don't have the good breeding and upbringing like me, the rich lady. And I'm going to do it my way. And the minute you tell them otherwise, they look very gobsmacked, very confused. Like, what? What are you talking about? I've sat in marketing meetings and I have to tell people like, it's giving tone deaf, it's giving privilege, it's giving classes and egregious. And the redness on people's face sometimes, just like, and I'm like, well, the target demographic is someone that looks like me. And I'm telling you, it's not going to work. But it's very interesting. It's very interesting. All right. Okay. So apparently, according to THR33, Mackenzie Scott has donated more than $4 billion in the past month. That's good. What is she going to do with the money? That's good. I'm proud of her. That large amount of money will get a "I'm proud of you" from me. If that's even what they're looking for. Good. Because there's no need. They have no need for the money. It just sits there and collects literal dust when people are literally starving. There's no need for world hunger. There's no need for people to be unhoused. The Catholic Church is the largest, landlord is not the word, largest property owner in the United States. Think about that. They have churches that sit vacant, yet there are people on the street. Okay, it's very much giving Joel Osteen during the hurricane. Like, oh, let me pray for you, but y'all can't come up in my church. Y'all are dirty, and my church is clean. It's problematic at best. So to Kelly's point, because I wasn't exactly sure. To Kelly's point, to THR's point, but that's pittance compared to if Amazon paid their taxes and Bezos wasn't. It is Peter's spaceship. See, when I commit to reading it, cheeky, just cheeky. Him and his spaceship just giving the rest of us dust, I find to be so rude. So the audacity of him is something else. Listen, the shock always gets me, which is why the older I get, the more I say wild things at work to people, because they're always just foolish. Okay, I'm just going through the comments. Nozuko, all I need is $1 million in these donations. Listen, I specifically need $212,000. That's what's remaining on my student loans. So I'm just saying, if one of y'all just bored, you're perusing the internet and you have it, I'm here. I'm right here. Okay. Well, we haven't done calls in like a while. Do y'all want to do calls? Does it really look like that? I'm about to look at the spaceship. I haven't looked it up either. Let's do some quick calls. Let's see. A little, wait, I'm like, what size are we? Invite. We'll do like 10 minutes of calls. Is my phone going off? Okay. Kelly, I see your comment. And I'm not going to pin the comment because if people don't know the context, I'm going to be like, Stephanie, you support him? Be like, I do not. That's not correct. But it is funny. He's an interesting person. It looks like a mushroom. I'm about to go get on the flight. Oh gosh. Well, I appreciate y'all as always. Oh, I wanted to say while I have you guys, shout out and thank you to everyone on Patreon. We have, and I say we because it wouldn't have happened without y'all, enough money now for me to actually buy a camera. So if you didn't know, I have been filming. This is on my laptop whenever we do the lives, which is why the quality on the live is a little and then the videos are on my iPhone. So I'm gonna finally buy a camera. It might take a second for me to learn how to use said camera, but I'm gonna get one. So I'm excited. So the quality of the lives will be better. So thank you to everybody on Patreon for that, because I literally haven't spent any of the Patreon money. I just saved it, and I was like, okay, when I hit the amount, either I'll hit 100 patrons, or I'll just hit the amount, whatever, and we'll get the camera. So we getting the camera, child. All right. Okay. So on that note, I guess we're all good. I appreciate all of you. Oh, look, we're right on time. It's 8 o'clock. Great. I'll let y'all go have let me read through the rest of them and make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Chican transport. Assume is the keyword. I have met some stupid lawyers. I know many. I know a few. Ciao. Bless them. I've worked for a few too. Not currently. Currently, everybody is way too smart for their own good. But previously, I'm just like, how did you know what? None of my business. Listen. The lawyer dream, that's why sometimes y'all will ask me, like, oh, should I go to law school? I'm like, you're rarely going to get an outright yes out of me. I'm always going to say, go think about it. Go work as a paralegal for a year and see if you like it. Because it's not the dream that it's cracked up to be. All right. Okay, cool. Oh, thank you, Jody. It was so kind of you. I appreciate you. Oh, yeah, I know it's super late where you are. I know the love is there. It's mutual. The love is mutual, Nizuka. I appreciate you. Well, on that note, I won't leave this. Last time I left the little wine thing up the whole time, and then I watched the playback and was like, this is super distracting. / I feel like it's too much light going on. All right. Well, I will catch you on the next video. Things I owe you that are coming up. Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes. I didn't forget about her. I just have to film and edit all of it. So it's going to be Elizabeth Holmes, and then woven in, it's going to be a bit about tech finances and how VC funding works. Because I realize it's not an area that a lot of people are aware of, like unless you work in tech. So y'all can see how basically systemic racism plays a huge factor into tech and how VC funding works. And it's very interesting to see it on like that scale of billions of dollars. All right. Okay. Well, what lawyers make the big bucks? I mean, the partners, like if you're a partner at a big firm like in New York, they do clear $1 million a year, like the senior partners. They do. But that's like 20 years of you surviving in a 60 to 80 hour a week schedule. So there are some rich lawyers, but they're not making no one is making Tom Girardi money because that's a scam. You see a lawyer making Tom Girardi money, it's not their money. So there's that. All right, y'all. On that note, I will see you guys later. Oh, yeah. So that's what I was telling you. I'm getting distracted. Sorry. So we're going to do Elizabeth Holmes, and then we're going to do my 100K paid to student loans. I've hit the mark, so I'm going to do a video on that. And one of these days, we're going to do Smile Direct. I know I keep forgetting to do it. We'll work it in. But yeah, if you guys ever want to see a video or anything, just let me know. Just leave it in the comment, and I'll look into it. All right. Well, I appreciate all of you. If you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe, and I will catch y'all later. Bye. Oh, let me drink my wine so it looks nice in the end frame.